Okay, this is Moshe coming to you from Israel and the Galilee on the 27th of January, 9:51 in the morning, 53 degrees. We're going to hit 60, a low of 47, and we're going to have probably about 5 hours of sunshine today. It already started, and I'm looking forward to that. It'll dry the roof out. So anyway, that's my problem, huh? All right, let me jump right into the chat and make sure everything's good while people are coming in. There's gonna, whoa, got this wrong. There's gonna be a lot of so-called intel today. So far, 14 states have sent either state police or state National Guard to support Texas. What they're doing right now is just working on fencing, but that's likely going to change. Okay, work on the chat for a second. Almost there, giving people a chance to come in and be another few seconds, really. Okay, we're done. Being a Bible-believing site, let's do our praise. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay, so we'll start with a little bit of Israel news. There's not a tremendous amount to report. Lebanon has increased their attacks on Israel, predominantly around the border, but they're also shooting at, I think it's Mount Hermon, where there's a military base. They're not becoming that aggressive, but more than they were for several days, and Israel is quite aggressive in attacking places in Lebanon. The deadline for the Hezbollah, which are located in Lebanon, to move their forces back to the Litani River, or the Litany, however you pronounce the darn thing. It's about 17 to 18 miles north of the Israeli border, and there's a UN ruling that that's what they should do, and they've never observed it, and Israel intends to enforce it starting February 1st, and they're doing the preliminary groundwork for it now with bombing of different strategic targets. As I said, we might find out that Lebanon is not anywhere near as powerful as they say they are, or we may find out they are. The amount of rockets a country has is not, well, like a terrorist state, really. is not that relevant. What is relevant is the number of missile launchers that they have. Now, the junkie rockets, which is the overwhelming vast majority of what they're rumored to have, are going to go maybe up to 10, 11 miles or 12 miles, and they're just going to hit the border, which is about 95% evacuated. There's 80,000 people that have left, and the government's putting them up in hotels and other locations. So the amount of people damage they're going to do is very minimal. Property damage is, of course, a possibility. We have an army up there at the border with lots of armor, lots of artillery, lots of everything, full house. The chances of them sending, infiltrators across the border to create terror is extremely, extremely small at this point. They're not going to get through our soldiers. Biden increased the amount of aircraft that Israel's going to have substantially. We're getting a squadron of F-35s. The million-dollar question is, what's the size of a squadron? It could be up to 25, and it could be as little as 4. I'm thinking around 25, because Israel had a pending order, an order actually for 25 more F-35s, and that could bring us up to as much as 75 and probably as low as 60, someplace in there. Now, we tend to retrofit our F-35s, and we make them better. It takes about a month to do the retrofit, but they're pretty effective without the retrofit. They're also giving us about 25 F-15s and a small amount of Apache attack helicopters, along with tons of munitions, which would be bombs and rockets, I assume, for the aircraft. I believe they're selling them to us, and they should be here by the end of the month. The reason for the armaments is, of course, to help us with the Lebanese war, the Hezbollah war, okay, whatever you want to call it, right? That will bring our total fighter jet inventory up to someplace around 325 to 350. But our stuff is pretty advanced, okay? We're light on Apache helicopters, so we're getting some more of those. The fighting in Gaza is still continuing. It's brutal. It's, building to building, house to house. That's more or less central Gaza. A lot of people have been evacuated. Khan Yunis is the place. Massive tunnels there that are being destroyed, weapons launchers and systems being destroyed, troops of Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad getting killed, and the humanitarian aid is a really bad issue right now. For 3 days, and today could be the 4th day, the people of Israel that are related to hostages or friends or sympathizers have been doing roadblock protests to stop humanitarian aid from coming into Gaza. Their rationale is, you're not humanitarian towards the treatment of the hostages. The medical supplies, medicines and stuff, I guess, that came in from Qatar to be given to the hostages has never been given to the hostages. And the hostages have never been allowed to see the Red Cross. So this is a real dilemma. Netanyahu probably doesn't know exactly what to do about this. It's a wild card. The chances right now of some type of peace treaty ceasefire with Hamas are very slight, extremely, almost non-existent. So Netanyahu's approach to that is to just keep pounding Gaza till they, realize that if they keep it up, they're all going to be in caskets. That's the only thing he knows what to do. Retrieving the hostages with special forces and stuff is, this has been tried, 2.5 months ago, 2 months ago, and they can't locate them. Hostages are being put in people's homes, and they're all over the place in tunnels, and they can't really do it. We don't know how many hostages there are. They're deducing 136, but that's just based on the amount of people missing from the October 7th massacre, and the amount of, then they deduct from that the people we know are hostages for sure, and the small amount of hostages that have been returned. And they come up with 136, but the amount of living hostages could be 10. We don't know. They don't know. They don't want to say anything. They don't want to declare people dead when they don't know it. There's a lot of burnt bodies from the October 7th massacre that have not been identified by DNA. So we don't really know how many of that 136 are not really in Gaza and never were. They're just in the ruins of the fires of cars and houses and buildings from the October 7th massacre. So the amount of hostages, best possible case, would be 136. I'm thinking it's more like, 36 or something, if even that. They're not releasing a name, so the hostages they have, they're not giving us a count. Their terms for surrender is Israel immediately pulls out of Gaza, stops the fighting permanently. Of course, they won't. They'll start it up again. And releases a large amount of terrorists that are in jail for murdering and attempting to murder Israeli men, women, and children, innocents. There's constant efforts from America, Qatar, Egypt, you name it, trying to negotiate some sort of a peace deal. But the demands are rather insane on the part of Hamas. So the thought on the Israeli side is that Hamas hasn't realized yet that it's over. Now comes the ICJ court in The Hague. They came out with a preliminary ruling. There will be more rulings about genocide, and they didn't declare Israel guilty of genocide at this point. Of course, Hamas was, but they're ignoring that. And because Israel's a party to the ICJ, they asserted jurisdiction. They did not rule that you have to have a ceasefire in Gaza, but they might at a subsequent date, which could be a week or 2 or 3, we don't know. They said that Israel should make every effort possible to deliver humanitarian aid and make every effort possible to not kill civilians in baby talk. They gave Israel 30 days to file a report explaining what Israel is doing to prevent these things. They also told Hamas to release all the hostages. Now, the chances of Hamas releasing all the hostages because the ICJ said so is, I'd say, 0, not 1%, 0. What's going to happen if they don't? Nothing. What do you think is going to happen? Not a darn thing. If you haven't figured out all the nations are run by Satanists and they're all against Israel and they're just playing different roles, you should rethink that. So the declaration of genocide could still come about, and an order to stop the war could come about. I myself see peace with Lebanon and Gaza at this time coming pretty soon, but not anything serious and long-lasting, but some sort of stopping the fighting, ceasefire, if you will. Will the Hezbollah withdraw to the Litany River? I don't know. If they do, they'll wait to the very last minute, or they'll announce it on February 1st or something like that, just to be in defiance and rebellion. Israel's been flying flights over Tripoli and Lebanon, breaking the sound barrier. If you know what that sounds like, it could be frightening. I've heard it about 100 times in Israel. It rattles the doors, the windows, and things on shelves like dishes. And they've been dropping flares, and they've been conducting mock bombing runs. So when you're dealing with these fanatical terrorist groups that think it's a call of God to destroy Israel, you have to understand that if they get killed in this effort, they consider themselves to be martyred, and they go up to heaven and get all their great rewards. So they're more than happy to die for the cause. They don't care about the Lebanese people, like Hamas doesn't care about the Gazans. And they may very well push this, knowing in the first few hours their electric grid's going to go out, and they're going to lose their capital and other big cities and things of this nature. Now there'll be cries of genocide again. But when Hezbollah and Hamas and the Houthis shoot rockets at civilian population centers, the court does nothing. You need to understand that they never will. They're completely against Israel, okay? You have to understand that, okay? Israel's never going to get a fair shake. If you don't understand that, I'm sorry, it can't help you, okay? All right, so will Israel file this report in 30 days? Absolutely. Will it do much good? I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know what they're going to say. That's a red alert going off. There's missiles coming in. We've had several from Lebanon this morning. I'll tell you in a moment where it came from. It's an alert on an unrecognized aircraft by Mount Hermon. No, it's saying the confrontation line, the Hermon region confrontation line with Lebanon. The vast majority of these unidentified aircraft alerts are usually false alarms. They're not thinking that Hezbollah has a jet or anything like that. That would be blown up. They're thinking about a drone or some idiot on a paraglider or something like that, but I don't think so. Normally they're false alerts, but it could be real. Occasionally they are. 9:30, we had some more action from Hezbollah with rockets by the border of Lebanon and Israel. And then 8:38, we had more attack from Lebanon. And 7:39, we had another attack from Lebanon. And about 11 o'clock last night, we had an attack from Lebanon by the border. So they seem to be wanting to just shoot rockets every hour to keep us harassed, you know. Now, the Houthis managed to really damage a ship yesterday. It was a British ship carrying jet fuel, which is highly combustible. They hit the ship with missile. The ship caught fire, and because of the highly combustible nature of the fuel, they couldn't contain the fire and had to abandon ship. Now, this is after 9 attacks by the Americans and the Brits. So I've told you before the attacks on the Houthis started, and I'm going to keep telling you, they're never going to stop them with air attacks. I don't care if you saw they went out, the British and the Americans, and they dropped something like 800 or 1,000 bombs and missiles and rockets in a day, they would stop their activities for a few hours or maybe a day or 2 days at the most. That's it. Judging from our experiences with Hamas, that's it. You got to do a ground invasion. There's no alternative. The, the Pentagon's going through the motions for the diplomat, for the politicians. It's never going to work. They could bring 195 ships in from other countries. It's not going to stop. You got to understand, you're dealing with people that have a death wish to be martyrs, and that's what you got. That's what you're up against. If you don't understand that, then you're not going to get it. The conventional, rules of warfare, where you think when you start wrecking a place, it's going to stop. Look at Gaza. It's in shambles, and they're still going after us. There's conflict between Biden and Netanyahu over Gaza. Israel wants to occupy a buffer zone 1 kilometer deep into Gaza, and that is not going to do any good for missiles and rockets. It's just to stop infiltrations. Biden doesn't want that. Hamas doesn't want that. Biden wants more humanitarian aid. We've documented, must be on 12 or 15 occasions, that Hamas steals the humanitarian aid, keeps a lot of it for themselves, and the rest they put in stores that their own people own, and they sell it to the Gazan citizens at exorbitantly high prices, and they get it for free. Okay, so you have to understand the stupidity of the ICJ and Biden. Why don't they tell Hamas that if you keep stealing the humanitarian aid, we're going to raise a force in addition to Israel and come in with another 25 or 50,000 soldiers and 100 planes and blow you up? That would enable the humanitarian aid to get in. Instead, they do this so they can blame Israel for it. Do you have it? It's always Israel's fault. They're trying to set this up so that there's no winner to this war. All right? Now, what else? The UAE, we were running, because of the blockade in the Red Sea, we were running cargo through Haifa in Israel and the UAE port. So ships would go to the UAE, offload the containers to trucks. They'd truck it through Saudi Arabia and Jordan into Israel, put it on a boat in Haifa and truck it out. And they did it vice versa, so the ship could come into Haifa or come into UAE and go out the other one. And Israel was making a lot of money on this for port fees and fees for transferring loads from trucks to ships and ships to trucks. So I'm guessing Iran and the Houthis threatened UAE, and now the UAE is turning against Israel and saying our Abrahamic Accord with you will be broken. In other words, they're under threat that if they don't stop this Israel using their port, they're going to be attacked by the Houthis and or Iran. And they're afraid of trusting America, so they seem to be siding with Iran and our satellite puppets like the Houthis. So this method of shipping is likely to cease before the end of the week. The US and the UK are probably going to continue bombing and missile attacking the Houthis with more frequency and more missiles and artillery and bombs or whatever they're using. And it's going to not work. And then they're going to, they probably already have begun plans for a ground invasion. There's no other way to stop it. And that works the snare because it removes a lot of America's troops from uh, America and buries them in the Middle East. And you'll see why that's important as we develop later on in the video. Um, Basically, if the fighting stops in Gaza and Israel doesn't occupy Gaza, then Hezbollah and the Houthis say they'll stop. But that won't happen unless we release all the terrorists in jail, which are in the thousands, and that'll replace the thousands of terrorists that got killed in Gaza. So that gives you a picture of what's going on in Israel. The people in Israel want the hostages back, but they know enough because grandma and grandpa or mommy and daddy were in the Holocaust, and they know that Hamas has to be dealt a cruel hand, a very cruel hand, to set an example that there wouldn't be any more Holocausts. Of course, Biden and Netanyahu are opposing this, but Netanyahu is afraid to say so, but his actions are. If the ICJ issues an order to stop the war, my guess is Israel won't stop the war. What will happen as a result of that? I don't know. High chance nothing. They told in 2022, they told Putin to stop the war in Ukraine. He ignored them. What happened? Nothing. But we're Israel, not the nations. So something could happen. Okay. Let me take care of prayer requests because I don't want to get into forgetting, which occasionally happens. We have a prayer request for BH, Baker Hotel. BH, Baker Hotel. This is a healing for a rash for BH. Now, that is the only one that I have today. So let's give you an update. Well, let me look at the chat quick. This will just take a few seconds. I want to make sure everything's okay. You can put questions up in the chat. I don't mind, and I try to answer them. I go in and check. Somebody put a foreign language up. I delete foreign language posts because I don't understand this language, and people come in and put curses up against us in various languages. So nobody understands it anyway. So if you put foreign languages up, I'm going to delete the post. Okay. And then I'll block you if you keep doing it. You do it one more time, I'll just block you. Because people have translated them, and many times it's just cursing us, foul language, everything. All right. So, Biden and Abbott, the governor of Texas, are pitted against each other. That's old news by now. Biden gave Texas governor till today, well, it's the wee hours of the morning in Texas, I suppose, to take down the fence that he's been putting up. And Abbott's plainly said he's not doing it. Abbott is saying he has a constitutional right because Texas has basically been invaded and the federal government has an obligation to protect the states from invasion, and they have not done so. He's deployed the Texas State National Guard to the area, and what they're doing is predominantly putting up more fences and razor ribbon. Razor ribbon is a difficult thing to get over when you have it on a fence, but I tell you how they do it. They take thick, heavy blankets or rubber matting that you use to make, narrow carpets, and there's many things, and they throw it over the razor ribbon, covering the razor ribbon, and they just crawl over the razor ribbon. They could also cut it with clippers and things like that, but it does slow them down. Now, oh, it looks sunny-ish and it's raining again. Okay, so first thing you got to understand is the damage with the illegal aliens that come in and declare themselves for amnesty and get a court date of around 2031 right now. The damage has been done. There's 11 or 12 million that are already in the country, and 70% of them are military age males. Okay? So you've got, maybe more than 6 million. Now, these figures don't count what's coming into Florida, which are not tallied because they come in on boats and Border Patrol and them don't really know about it. And DeSantis has let massive amount of them in. Now DeSantis emerges and says, "Oh, I'm with Texas," and he's sending some of his Florida National Guard to help Texas. The latest tally as of an hour or two ago is 14 states out of the 26 that said they support Texas have sent some of their National Guard or their official state militias or their state troopers, state police, state highway patrol to help Texas with this crisis against Biden. Okay. It's up to 14. Abbott, the governor of Texas, has said that he expects all or almost all of the 26 states to send some help to him physically. There are militias in many states, I forgot the count, 27 I think, that have been deploying their people to Texas to help. Now these militias are not under the control of any government. They're what you would call private militias. Now the Senate has a bill in the Senate to make militias illegal. No training, no meeting, no nothing. So this is something that could pass. We don't know yet. It's a brand new bill last week. Then the question is, would be enforcement, because I doubt the militias would pay any attention to such a law. They would just dig in their heels for a fight. That's it. So from 27 states, these private militias have gone down to Texas to help. Texas has their own militias, private militias, and they also are on the border. They coordinate with the State National Guard and the Texas State Police. Abbott has asked for volunteers from the Texas Air National Guard. The National Guard is generally foot soldiers, infantry, it could be armor, and the Air National Guard are pilots. So he wants them also, and some other aspects similar to that, to volunteer to come help. Now, Biden is being urged by the Democrats to federalize the Texas National Guard. That means, like in time of war, during the Vietnam War, people would join the National Guard because they knew they wouldn't be sent to Vietnam, so they wouldn't be in the jungles getting bit by mosquitoes, that were, 3-4 inches long, and they wouldn't be getting toe rot, and they wouldn't be stepping on punchy stakes and getting killed in the jungles and stuff like that. So they would go in for about 6 months, and they would be trained, and it would be in America. And then they would have to report for meetings. Maybe it was once a month for an overnight. It was about 2 days once a month, and then they had to go 2 weeks active once a year. Now, I knew a guy that was in it, but he did it, I think, no, he did it at the beginning of the Vietnam War, I believe. And I had a friend, a close friend, a neighbor, that went in the Coast Guard reserves. So he went in and he got trained in New Jersey, did 6 months, and he told me that the idiots did a fire drill in the middle of the night and had them run out in their underwear and stand out in the street at attention while they did the fire drill, and people were catching pneumonia. I think he caught it. But back then, what the doctors would tell you is all you had to do was walk in the room of the patient that had pneumonia and uncork the penicillin bottle, and the pneumonia would go away. It was highly treatable back then, what they had for drugs and the strains of the pneumonia. So he wasn't any worse for wear. I had an uncle during World War II. He's dead now, but he was drafted at the end of the war. He never got shipped overseas. He told me they never even taught him to shoot a rifle. He resented the fact that they had him do physical training every day, you know, the jumping jacks and squat thrusts and running and all that. And they were guarding German prisoners, and the German prisoners were preparing food for the soldiers, which is very similar to my experiences when I was a deputy sheriff and the trustees preparing the food in the dining room that the deputies would eat in. I always was uneasy about that. We had our own farm, and we raised our own animals and plants and stuff like that, so the cost of the food was extremely low. And in those days, if you were traveling around and you had a badge and you knew your way around the jail system in Florida, you could go, if the time was right, you can go to the other county jails, show your ID, you know, you just really flashed your badge. The IDs back then were pretty immature. They were the size of a credit card. They were basically a cardboard. They had a picture on them, and they said, you know, Deputy Sheriff. Mine had gold letters and had the star on it and had the picture and your name and your badge number. Still remember mine. It was 489. And you would show up and they'd let you go in their dining room, and these were the prisons that had their own food. You know, they grew their own food, their own animals, and you would be able to eat for, I think it was 25 cents. It might have been less even, I don't know. And usually it was breakfast that for some reason people did, and that would normally be eggs, which could be scrambled or fried, a few strips of bacon, like 3. I was not a believer then. About 3 strips of bacon and grits. That was the typical breakfast with coffee, and they had water, maybe juice, and bread. They usually had white bread or rolls, butter, jam, sometimes honey. Normally it was quite good. These were, you know, ranch eggs. They weren't, you know, they were really, you know, chickens running around outside. They were pretty good. The other big, well, I imagine you could have done it for lunch, probably not dinner, because in the evening it would be a different scenario in the jail. But it was pretty good. I had it on rare occasions, you know. Where I worked, in the jail I worked in as a deputy, the food was free to us. Some guys wouldn't eat it. They'd just bring a sandwich. We called it brown bagging, you know. They wouldn't do it, you know. You had waiter service with trustees, and they'd come over and take your order. And they'd go back to the cook, and the cook would would cook it up and they'd bring it to the table for you, and you could ask for seconds. Or food was free to us out of jail, and so I used to eat it. Chicken fried steak was a big one. Hamburgers was a big one. Sometimes sausages, big sausages, real greasy, full of fat. But people ate them. They were spicy too, but they were okay. I mean, I made pretty good money with the overtime. I used to break 1,000 a month back then. That was, I mean, Cadillacs were $4,000 or $5,000 back then. 1,000 a month was, I was a kid basically. It was nice money. And you couldn't go around and buy gun collections and stuff, but you could eat out when you wanted. You could buy clothes. You could take care of your car. You rent. You were comfortable. Let's put it that way, comfortable. Sometimes I'd make $1,300 a month. That was good money. And because I was Jewish, they used to put me to work on Christmas. And if you ran overtime, and then you worked on Christmas, you would get a triple pay. So man, I was more than happy to work on Christmas. I was, sign me up, And nothing much happens except the highway patrol pulled drunks in. That was annoying, but that happened. And we used to read the teletype back then. They were not as sophisticated. We used revolvers. And we didn't have bulletproof vests. Nobody got issued a bulletproof vest. So you can see how old I am, So, but I like the revolvers. They, a good 357. Man, you shot somebody with one of them, they'd go down like I got hit by lightning if you got a good hit, But you had to carry a 380 or greater caliber. But I had a 32 Beretta I used to carry anyway. And people thought it was a 380. I used to just carry that one around with me, And it was a Beretta. It was a nice little gun, highly accurate, very reliable. And if you go back to the 20s and 30s, a lot of cops used the 32. You have to be accurate with your bullet placement, but I shot that thing through an old stove once that was abandoned in the woods. It had iron plate. It was probably more than a 1/4 inch, probably 3/8 inch thick. It was pretty thick. And I used a full metal jacket, and it went right through, made a hole on the other side. So, I mean, you had your penetration. If you had bullet placement, you were okay, even if you shot someone in the leg or something. I never shot anybody. I had my gun out, but I never shot anybody. I know I would have without hesitation. I know that. I know that. It didn't bother me, It wasn't. But guys used to carry. I used to try to get a 44 Magnum, but you couldn't get one back then because the Vietnam War was hot and heavy, and the guys in Vietnam, the soldiers, were buying the Smith & Wesson 44 Magnum, the Model 29 revolver, because they could shoot it through the trees in Vietnam, trees like that, and the bullet would pass right through the trees, and they would hit the guy on the other side of the tree. And I believe the M16, when you hit the tree, those things tumbled back then. So the bullet wouldn't go like this, it would go like this, and it wouldn't penetrate through the tree. But the 44 Magnum woods, you couldn't get one. I tried like heck to get my hands on one back then. I couldn't get. But anyway, so back to America. So there's a showdown apparently coming between Biden and Abbott today. Now, he could federalize the Texas State National Guard, but that's just a piece of paper. That's it. What if they decide, no, we're going to defy Biden, he's breaking the Constitution by not defending Texas and keeping the border open, we're going to side with Abbott. Biden could make moves towards them for treason and sedition, I believe. I'm not a lawyer, but it would appear to me that disobeying the order of the commander in chief, he has the legal right to federalize the state National Guard. During various wars, they sent them overseas, but I don't believe they did it in Vietnam. So the guys that did that beat the Vietnam War. They didn't have to go there. So the truth of that with the Vietnam War is if you didn't want to go, you didn't go. That was it. People got out, left, right, and center. They went to psychiatrists. They had health issues. The military saw a concerted effort to not go in the military, and they let you out. A friend from the neighborhood, his name was Jimmy, crawled out at Whitehall Street in New York, the induction center, crawled out on the ledge in his underwear and said, "I'm not coming in unless you give me a deferment, I'll jump." So the soldiers there, there's soldiers all over the place there, they started calling the doctors, and the shrinks came. They talked to him and they said, "Listen, I promise you we'll give you a deferment. We'll 4F you. Please come in." They didn't want to see anybody commit suicide rather than go in the army. So when they told him that, he climbed in and he got his 4F, and they sent him to Bellevue Psychiatric Hospital for 2 weeks observation. So he walked around the hospital, watched TV, made phone calls, slept, it was free. And they didn't see any, he wasn't crazy, he didn't want to go in the army, and they let him out. Why did this happen? I had a friend that actually got drafted, didn't want to be in there. So he had knee surgery. So he sits up one night and punches his knee, it swells up and everything. He goes on sick call, the doctor says, "What'd you do? Sit up all night and punch your knee." So I knew he was in deep doo-doo, right? This guy was a martial arts friend of mine. At the time, he was a first-degree black belt in Taekwondo. He was big. He was 6'2", 6'3", tough guy. Graduated college, NYU. He was a good friend of mine for some years. And he taught me how to use nunchuckers, how to string them, stuff like that. So he went to the mess hall at the base, and he's standing there waiting to get food, and they tell him, "Hey, you dropped your spoon." So he goes to pick up the spoon, and it's nailed into the floor. So I believe there was a brief fight about that. Then he gets put on restricted duty. So he's working in a hospital mopping floors or something. So he takes his shirt, and he was big, muscular guy. He cuts the sleeves off. It must have been warm weather over here. And he's wearing the shirt, and he's getting away with it. It's not uniform. Then he goes to the movie on the base. So he goes there, and there's a Weisenheimer selling the tickets. He said it was 25 cents. So he gives the guy a quarter. He gets a ticket, and then he starts walking in. The guy says, "You can't go in." "Why?" "Well, you're out of uniform. You got to go change your shirt." So he goes back and changes his shirt, and then comes back, and there was another thing. So he was having fights, and they just discharged him. I mean, they saw people. Now in World War II, they weren't this way because they were really desperate. Here, they weren't really desperate. The Vietnamese were not invading America. They were not blowing up Europe. They were not a threat. They weren't running concentration camps in Europe. The Japanese weren't attacking the Pearl Harbor. It was mild to them. So anybody that was really making a concerted effort that they did draft to get thrown out, got thrown out. Now, you had to be careful because some people wound up in military prison for years. So you had to watch what you were doing. If you kept having fights, you ran the risk of getting put into a punishment basic training. Yeah, this is people in basic training. And the punishment in basic training was brutal. I mean, it was 2, 3 times worse than regular basic training to beat you into submission. People that were taking drugs on the base, or fighting, or stealing, or hitting officers or sergeants as they wound up going there. Usually, the drill instructors knew how to take care of themselves, but I heard many stories of martial artists and boxers kicking the crap out of drill instructors only to find themselves in these punishment, basic training, or jail. So that was typically a bad idea. Plus, the other drill instructors would run over immediately and gang up on them. The drill instructors were normally in great shape, running, push ups, sit ups, chinning, climbing ropes, going over obstacle courses. And most of them didn't have a lot of unarmed combat training. They usually had some, but it was rather superficial. They usually relied on their extreme physical fitness, and they were extremely fit. But when they came up against a skilled fighter, somebody that was boxing for 4 or 5 years, or 4 or 5 years of martial arts, they usually got their head handed to them. They didn't have that kind of skill set. And these guys with their fighting skills were also in great shape too. So, there was a lot of reports of them beating up drill instructors. Um, Now, there were people in the military that had good martial arts skills too. The Green Berets used to train their guys in basically the World War II combat systems, which was excellent, excellent. Jiu-jitsu, basically. Um, for 2 hours a day for 6 months. They were good. I had sparred with a few of them in those days, and the two I remember, one I broke his finger, and the other one I hurt in his elbow, I think. I'd see them coming. They weren't up to speed with me. It wasn't the match. But there weren't real fights. They were just sparring. These guys didn't know how to protect themselves. They'd keep their hands open. Instead of blocking, well, they just didn't know how to do it. So anyway, what's Biden going to do? Oh, he's going to make a move against Texas. What is his move? Federalizing the National Guard is a good idea because it's just on paper initially, and it will scare the National Guard. But now there's 14 states, with the number climbing just about by the hour, that are sending their National Guard people over to Texas. So he really would have to do it to all of them. I don't think the states will put up with that. I'll be back in a minute. Quick break. You're going to civil war, basically. I'll lay it out for you. what Biden does next is going to be inflammatory. You see, I got to use the Bible to explain what's going on. Open border Biden is against the United States. This takes you to Revelations. Now, I have detailed Bible studies on this in my YouTube channel. My videos are under the live section because I do live streams mostly. So you can go in there and look at them. But Revelation 17. The beast destroys the whore, burns her and eats her flesh. The beast has 10 horns. These are 10 kingdoms, or 10 nations, whatever you want to call them, that will turn against the whore. Now, Satan runs the beast, and the whore, in the last verse of Revelation 17, is that great city. It's Washington, D.C., District of Columbia. Columbia is a woman idol, the Statue of Liberty, and the Columbia Motion Pictures icon, and the woman on the roof of the Capitol. And Jeremiah 50:51, speaking of the daughter of Babylon, says they're mad with their idols. And they are. There's idols all over America. The Supreme Court looks like a Roman or Greek temple. Statue of Liberty has the same pillars in there too. The New York Stock Exchange also. These guys are worshiping mythological gods, which are demons. So I made myself a cup of soup to warm up. So what's happening is in Jeremiah 50:51. It says there'll be ruler against ruler. Now, I need to explain to you, I want to read the scripture to you so you know it's in the Bible. I'll read it out of the King James. I got to find the verse. I don't know exactly which verse it is. All right, it's Jeremiah 51:46. And I'll start with 45. My people, go you out of the midst of her, and deliver every man his soul from the fierce anger of the Lord. And lest your heart faint, and you fear for the rumor that shall be heard in the land. A rumor shall both come 1 year, and after that in another year shall come a rumor, and violence in the land. The word for violence is in the Hebrew Hamas. It's not Hamas, it's a chet sound. Oops, where did this go? I gotta get it back. Violence. Okay, let's see what Strong's, how he puts it into English. What Strong says is violence, by implication wrong, by metonymy, I don't know what that word is, unjust gain, cruel, damage, false, injustice, oppressor. Oh, this is exactly what Biden is doing. Violence in the land, and then it says ruler against ruler. The word for ruler is mashal, mem shen lamed in Hebrew. And let's see how Strong's puts it into English. Have dominion, a governor. Okay, so a ruler against ruler would have to be somebody that's officially in charge of something. So it couldn't be the head of a militia that's just an ad hoc private group, or a group like Black Lives Matter or something like that. It would need to be a city mayor, somebody running a county, or a governor. And we got the governors, don't we? So your ruler against ruler is in play. Okay? All right. Now, what's going to happen is violence with the ruler against ruler. Now, how exactly Biden proceeds, I don't know. The way they have it. Now, the first thing you got to understand is this. In Jeremiah 50:24, it says, God has put a snare on America, which is the daughter of Babylon. Okay? A snare. And America's in the snare. And Biden is working the snare for the beast and Satan, but God is overall conducting the snare. He's getting rid of the daughter of Babylon. You're in the year of recompenses now. It started around August 1st. If you don't believe me, I understand that, but those of you that know me know. That's when it started. So we're about to go into the 7th month, or we may already be there, of the year of recompenses, which is 12 months long. So you got 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You got 6 months to go. By then, America's finished. This I can promise you. It's in the Bible. Is the timing right? I guarantee you it is. What happens in the year of recompense is he eliminates the daughter of Babylon and possibly other countries, but that are enemies of Israel. And the daughter of Babylon is Israel's top enemy. Netanyahu is an enemy of Israel. And, you know, that this is what's happening. Netanyahu and Biden were behind the October 7th deal. Biden wouldn't let Netanyahu visit him. And then sometime in early-ish February, he said, oh, Netanyahu could come here anytime. February 20th, Netanyahu shows up to visit Biden, and then October 7th, we have this massacre, and all of Israel's guard is down. The women soldiers in the outposts looking for the infiltrators saw them, phoned them in, and they were laughed at. Who was monitoring the cameras? Who was monitoring the sensors? People were calling for help. Help didn't come for 7 or 8 hours. I was sitting outside getting ready for the Bible study or my live stream during the day. It was early in the morning, and about 5:30 in the morning, I started seeing an endless amount of rocket attacks in Israel coming on my red alert. It was just nonstop from Hamas, nonstop. I figured, 15, 20 minutes, the planes will be there bombing them. The planes didn't come for about 3.5 hours. People on the ground that were getting killed didn't get help for 7 or 8 hours. Put the pieces together. This served to infuriate Israel so they'd go to war. Why did Biden want to see Israel go to war? Well, you see, he's setting Israel up, but it's not going to work. But God is setting America up, and it will work. Some will say, well, why? I'm not behind Biden. Then you'll be the ones, if you're with God, you'll be the ones that get out, because there's going to be a harvest. America has her own harvest. And I'll explain what a harvest is to you. The Matthew 13 harvest is for the whole world. America has her own. And I'll get you the scriptures for that. It's Jeremiah 51:33, and I will read it. For thus saith Jehovah of armies, Elohim of Israel, the daughter of Babylon is like a threshing floor. In a threshing floor, what happens is they bring the wheat and the chaff in. The chaff is the junk. They separate it on the threshing floor. They put the wheat in the barn, and the chaff, the junk, or the tares, whatever you want to call it, gets burned up. The daughter of Babylon is like a threshing floor. It is time to thresh her. Yet a little while, and the time of her harvest is come. The harvest in America is going to be the Israelites, unsaved, are going to wake up and leave. This will be lost tribes in America, of which probably the North American Indians are. And Judah, which is Judah and Levi. There's 6.5 million of Judah and Levi known in America. There's probably more that have disguised their names over the years. And I don't know how many lost tribes, but it's going to be a massive amount of people leaving, and they're going to start leaving very soon. The ruler fighting ruler is going to cause a lot of violence. It says, those of you that survived the sword, let Zion come to mind. Now, I should show you that scripture too, right? I'll read you a few scriptures since we're reading scriptures. Jeremiah 50, verse 5. They shall ask the way to Zion, which is Israel, with their faces thitherward, which would be east, saying, come and let us join ourselves to Jehovah in a perpetual covenant that shall not be forgotten. Next verse I'll cover is Jeremiah 50:28. The voice of them that flee and escape out of the land of Babylon, to declare in Zion the vengeance of Jehovah Elohim, the vengeance of his temple. Now, this can be something they're going to do to the next temple, which I think will be here next month, as a guess. But it also could be a throwback to the old temple that the Babylonians burned and destroyed. Now, we know that the Americans did not do that thousands of years ago, but the unclean spirits running America did, or behind it. Jeremiah 50:28. We just did that. Jeremiah 51:10. Jehovah hath brought forth our righteousness. Come and let us declare in Zion the work of Jehovah Elohim. So they're going to come to Israel and tell the people in Israel what happened in America. And this is the day of vengeance, which happens in the year of recompenses, which means payback. For an explanation, the Lord has a controversy with the nations over Zion. And I will render unto Babylon and to all the inhabitants of Chaldea, which is the witches, the soothsayers that were in old Babylon, all their evil that they have done in Zion. So they're going to do more bad things to us in Zion, or maybe they did enough already, I don't know. In your sight, so it's in my sight and many other people in Israel, saith the Lord. Jeremiah 51:35. Whoops, Jeremiah moved it. The violence done to me and to my flesh, be upon Babylon. So they're going to do bad things to Israel today, or it goes to the past, or both. Shall the inhabitants of Zion say, and my blood upon the inhabitants of Chaldea shall Jerusalem say. So it sounds more like it's a today thing. So you can expect America to do more evil to Israel. And there's a lot of likely scenarios, like they could say you have to stop the war in Gaza and you leave and the hostages go and we're going to put troops in there to stop you, or they could stop us or turn on us, or maybe they're just sucking us into wars and they'll turn their back on us. Oh, we got to bring our soldiers out of there and go back to America. I don't think they'll do that. I think they're going to embed the soldiers in the Middle East and maybe other parts of the world to make America easier to defeat. Now, the invasion of America has already happened. You've got 11 or 12 million illegals in there now. 302,000 came in December alone. This has been going on since 2022. And that doesn't count all the ones that come into Florida every day by boat. Nobody knows how many those are. They don't go for amnesty, they just stay. Illegals were coming into America, going back into before like 2008 and 9. I mean, it's been going on a long time. Abbott and the governors are working with Biden. It doesn't look like that to the vast majority of the people, but they are. They're weakening America. See, the illegal aliens, the sleeper agents, are in place. And while they'll attack houses and people, and while they'll plunder and pillage, they're also going to destroy the military bases first. Most military bases are poorly defended, if at all. They just have Department of Defense police and military police running around with pistols, basically, maybe some assault rifles. On a small base, they'll have 10 or so on shift at a time. On a big base, maybe 50. They control people coming in and out, shipments going in and out. They patrol looking for fights, for burglary, for drunks, for theft. Not much. The soldiers are unarmed. They can't have personal weapons. You've got so many illegals, if they show up at a substantial base, would say 3,000 with handguns and rifles, they'll overrun the place. Lickety split. Destroy the military. But first, they want to weaken America with civil war. That's Biden's plan. That's in the scriptures. That's God's snare. And it's started already. It's begun. The 25 states that have sided with Texas, leaving out Alaska, all have a land connection. How curious. You can, sometimes in slightly roundabout ways, drive from one of these states to any one of the others. How convenient. So they can conduct commerce, transfer goods, weapons, military, without going on the Fed's land. And so many states have ocean access to the Gulf of Mexico and the Atlantic, which is essential to bring in aircraft and to bring in ships and stuff like that. So it plays well. Now, will Biden use mercenaries like Abraham Lincoln? what happened with Abraham Lincoln? States didn't like his policy, and they decided that they had the right to resign or succeed from the Union, and they did. And Lincoln said, "You don't have the right to succeed." Well, you can debate this legally all day long. It doesn't matter. These states are going to succeed because Biden's not going to get up in the morning and say, "Okay, we're not going to have more illegals come in, and I've appointed Donald Trump as a special advisor to help me run them out of the country." It's not going to happen. Closing the border is not going to make a difference at this point. Running them out would, but that would take years. And there's no effort. All right. Abraham Lincoln hired mercenaries from Europe, Irish and others, put them in an army, had them fight, and then they got to live in America. They were already passing bills and proposing legislation in the federal Congress to do that, to take these illegals and put them in the military for 2 or 3 years and then kick them out with a citizenship. These people will fight avidly against Texas and Oklahoma and Florida, etc. Will Biden do it? Lincoln did. It's a little time consuming though, because they got to induct them. Most of them have crappy English or no English or little English. They have to teach them something about the American military, maybe 6 weeks, 8 weeks. And, they got to learn, call signs, radios, telephones, driving motor vehicles, shooting various weapons, artillery, missiles, right? I mean, it's going to take some weeks. Most of these characters use AK-47s, not M16s, and so they'd have to have a few days of training, a week or something. Maybe they could bang them out in a month. And they'll be vicious. It's going to be those of you who survived the sword, let Zion come to mind. A lot of people are going to get killed in the Civil War. It's weakening America for these sleeper agents to rise up. If you think I'm crazy, why did Biden leave the border open to this extent with 70% military age males coming in? Come on, wake up. It's too painful to understand. Sorry. The ones that are going to make it are going to have their allegiance towards God. Father God, Jehovah, and His Son, Yeshua HaMashiach, and their country is Israel, not America. So if you want to be like Lot's wife, be my guest, but you're going to go down there. You're not going to get out of your life. The sleepers are not going to start out by going door to door. They're going to start out by getting rid of the military. And Biden helps them. Or what they might do instead is just have this country go into two countries, the Abbott country of 25 states and the Biden country, and pit the militaries and the militias against each other. That could work too. They don't need the sleepers to take the military bases out. They'll take each other out. There's never going to be a winner of this war. Never. Now, I'll give you the kicker. Years ago, there were revolutionary groups, several, that were rising up against America from inside America. It goes back to about 1990 when it first started. And, in the early 2000 years, they got a few active movements. And this is the way they worked. The way it would go is the states would not go to the Fed and ask permission to succeed. They would go to their legislatures and they would pass a bill of succession, or they may go to their voters to do a referendum, probably just the legislature, because it's going to have to be fast. State legislature approves it. They send it to the governor signs it, they send it to Biden, and it's now official. They're out of the union. Their people no longer pay federal income tax. Okay? Their people are no longer American citizens. They'll issue new identity cards, but not to the illegals. You'll have to go down there and look, act, and talk like you're American and come up with good documentation as to who you are. So 98, 99% of these illegals are not going to have these new documents. So they could be picked up relatively easily. Okay? They'll probably end gun control, and they'll allow the people to have silencers, full automatic weapons, just over the counter, and possibly put 40 millimeter grenade launchers under the barrel of their AR-15. And I think they'll draw the line there. I don't think they'll disperse artillery and rockets, but the little grenade launcher, the 40 millimeter, grenade launcher under the barrel, maybe. This will be to help them fight the military. They'll allow the modification of existing guns to go to full auto. They'll allow short-barreled rifles, short-barreled shotguns, all kinds of weapons people can't get now. Okay? Basically, they're going to eliminate all gun control. You're not going to have to register the guns or anything. Okay? But there's no way you're going to buy any of these guns unless you got that new ID card. Now, that'll get the people psyched up. But, okay, let's say 25 states are against Biden and they all succeed. They're not going to create 25 nations. They got to join together to make a new nation. So they'd probably call it something like Republic of the United States, something like that, right? All the bells and whistles, they'll go for a hard currency. Everything the survivalists, the patriots, the militias want, they'll go for. That'll draw the people in from the other states to come live in these states. That'll bring a lot of money into the state, a lot of people that are going to join their militias and armies and all of this. Okay. Now, this new state that they create has to have a legislature because they're going to go by the Constitution. Believe me, they're going to go by the Constitution. That's ironclad. Now, this is if time allows it to get this far, which it probably will. They're going to form a new Congress. Will it be a one house or a two house? Probably two. Each state will get the right to put a certain amount of senators in and congressmen. So they'll take their own people. Remember, they drop out of the Fed. Their senators and their congressmen are no longer members of the federal Congress. Okay? So they may have a new election, or they may take these people and just plunk them into the new government. So the new government is going to form three branches. They're going to form a judicial, a legislative, and executive. I'm going to save the executive bombshell for last, which is really going to ooh and ah you. You're going to stagger when I tell you what they got in store, which you'll agree with me when I tell you, I think. I can't say 100%, but I see it coming. But what they're going to do, make a legislature. And they're going to make a Supreme Court. They're going to start with that. So they'll nominate or appoint or contribute or vote in or whatever, the Supreme Court bench, 10, 15 guys, whatever they're going to do. They'll have a Supreme Court. And they're going to have a president and a vice president. Yes, they will. Who do you think their president will be? Not Mickey Mouse, not Goofy, not Donald Duck, the other Donald, Donald Trump. Do you see how they're grooming this? This is all worked out in advance. Trump's already saying, oh, the states should go support Texas. Abbott may be the vice president. DeSantis may be the vice president. Nikki Haley, I don't know. But they're going to try to rally everybody to them. And what would do it better than Trump? Trump did not get to be a billionaire and president of the United States because he's not serving Satan. He is. This is a ruse. This is a sham. It's just part of the plot, part of the snare. But they'll arrange for the Donald to become the president. And he'll say, as soon as my hand leaves the Bible, I'm going to round up these illegals and get rid of them. Talk is cheap. Did he ever get rid of Obama or Medicare? Medical? No. Did he ever put Hillary in jail? Come on, talk is cheap. That's where Trump is going to be. And his ship's going to go right down. But he's going to rally all these patriots and survivalists and gun collectors and militias to come into this nation and form a big army so America can destroy itself. And that's God's snare. After they're sufficiently weakened, look, it would take more than 4 years to round up 11 or 12 million people and ship them out. Okay? Come on. Now, how does this new republic get weapons like aircraft, missiles, Navy ships? Well, they'll have to impound or confiscate the American military equipment in their state. I don't see any other way. This is Trump's heyday. He doesn't realize it's his swan song, but it is, but he doesn't know that. This is the end of Trump, but he doesn't know that. It will sound so good to have Trump as your president, get rid of Biden and the Democrats. We're going to get rid of the illegals. We're going to come make a comeback. You'll have hats instead of Make America Great Again. It'll be Make the Republic Great Again and stuff like that. Trump will tell the people everything they want. We'll put Biden in jail. We'll put Kamala in jail. We'll put Hillary in jail. We'll get rid of those illegals. We'll put them in an island someplace. We'll kill them. We'll do anything. Trump will say anything to make it fly. He loves to get up there and talk. He's fantastic at that, isn't he? He's so charismatic. He's as good as Hitler. All right, let me check the chat. See, they're waiting. The public's waiting. Oh, you know, we'll put Trump in office in November, and in January 20th, 25, we have nothing to worry about. Can't wait. There's no time for that. This thing will be over by the end of July. Nobody could outrun Trump with this breakaway 25 states. Nobody. Nobody. Not a chance. People will get armor-piercing bullets for their pistols. They'll get full auto guns. You'll be able to buy the Glocks and get that little piece you can put in there to make it full auto. I shot one of those once. It's rough. I mean, it fires them so fast, you're empty. But, you know, I don't know what application it has that's any good. The Beretta made one with a 3-shot burst. That was good. I understand they sell for at least $10,000 if you could get one. It's a regular 92 FS Beretta. Basically, it has a little stock that folds down under the barrel, and you put the switch on and you could shoot 3-shot bursts. And if you get a 15 or 17, 18 round magazine in there, you're in business. So if someone came up to your car and tried to carjack you, and then you hit them with 3 bullets and then drive away, you know. Now, in these states, they're going to create law enforcement positions for people. This you can count on. And they're going to call them rangers or sheriffs or marshals. And they're going to be basically volunteers in the early stages. They're going to have placards with magnets. They'll put in their car that says Marshal, Sheriff, Ranger. They'll smack badges and ID cards out. This is to round up the illegals and protect the people, right? They'll probably bring their own firearms. They'll have standard firearms that they have to have. They'll swear them in and put them in place pretty early on, and they'll start patrolling pretty quick, and they'll be out there to arrest federal soldiers or federal law enforcement coming into their state and combat them. And these will be your militias. They'll probably have a requirement of military experience, law enforcement experience, or militia experience. They'll be very nice to the people. They won't bother the we the people citizens. They'll be very nice. They won't have any reason to harass them. They're not going to go fanatical with drug enforcement. I don't know if they'll legalize all drugs. They might ignore drug laws. They're not going to be traffic enforcement isn't going to go anywhere. They're not going to be sitting there with radar and lasers writing tickets. They're going to have their hands full. They'll be on borders. They'll be with the other states that are not in the union. They'll things like this. If you needed help, like illegals were breaking into your house and you called them, they'd be much better than the cops. They'd come out there with the intent of taking a cadaver out of there, killing them. That's what they would do. Prisons, they'll use their existing prisons. They very likely will take prisoners that are not serial killers and child rapists and stuff like that and let them go, maybe with the condition they join the militias. I don't think they're going to let the, murderers and all of that get out, but you don't know. They may shut the prisons. Are they going to put the enemy soldiers and law enforcement in the prisons? They'll probably will. They'll have courts and run trials for them and stuff like that, but summary execution will be the big deal. If a federal agent comes into these states, it's going to be terrorism to them, and they'll probably go for shooting, firing squad. I don't think they'll put up with them. I don't think they'll let that. They're going to want a severe deterrent, and they'll think if they start building big prisons with many inmates, it'll break them. So they're going to probably go for firing squad, summary execution. It's going to be bloody. And according to the scriptures, this is when you're going to see many of them leave. They're going to leave because of fear of the sword. I'll give you the scripture. I don't have them all memorized. I gotta look them up. We read this in Jeremiah 50, verse 16. Cut off the sower from Babylon, that's the guy that plants the seeds, the agriculture workers, and him that handleth the sickle, those are the harvesters. In the time of harvest, handle the sickle in time of harvest. For fear of the oppressing sword, they shall turn everyone to his people, and they shall flee everyone to his own land. They're going to be, it says here, fear of the oppressing sword. They're going to be afraid of this new republic because they're foreigners and they're going to get scared. They're going to be thinking that they're going to be treated like sleeper agents. And also those that are in the Biden portion of the United States are going to flee because they could see the war coming. Both republics or whatever, you'll see that both sides, they'll flee because of the war. And they go back to their own country that they came from. And this is Bible. This has to come to pass. find some more if I can here for you. Jeremiah 50:36. A sword is upon the liars. Well, that's every politician, right? Every actor, every movie star. Yeah. And they shall dote. A sword is upon her mighty men, and they shall be dismayed. Jeremiah 50:35. A sword is upon the Chaldeans. That's the witches in America. Saith the Lord, and upon the inhabitants of Babel, and upon her princes, and upon her wise men. Those are the leaders. Jeremiah 50:37. A sword is upon their horses, upon their chariots, upon the mingled people. The mingled people. America's the melting pot. Upon the mingled people that are in the midst of her. They shall become as women. A sword is upon her treasures, and they shall be robbed. Where and what are these treasures? Well, the museums, of course, and also the wealthy people's houses. There must be 100 or 200 wealthy communities in America, and they got these little mansions, and they got lots of wealth and riches to plunder, and they're going to get it, because these people are going to rape and kill them and torture them and everything else. Jeremiah 51:50. You that have escaped the sword, go away, stand not still. Remember the Lord afar off, and let Jerusalem come into mind. See, they're not going to stop in the wilderness. There's no indication of this. This is a special harvest for the daughter of Babylon. There's more Israelites in the daughter of Babylon than there are in Israel. That's why it's special. Now, I could be missing some details about how they set up the new republic and all that, but you're getting the general drift, and all roads lead to Trump. Trump is the perfect leader for this new republic. Perfect. And what happens to those that are rallying to this new republic? I'll show you. Whoops. Jeremiah 51, around verse 8. Let's go there. Let's start in Jeremiah 51:4. Thus the slain shall fall in the land of the Chaldeans, that's America, Babylon, and they that are thrust through in her streets. For Israel hath not been forsaken, nor Judah of his God, of the Lord of hosts, though their land was filled with sin against the Holy One of Israel. Flee out of the midst of Babylon, and deliver every man his soul. Be not cut off in her lawlessness, for this is the time of the Lord's vengeance. He will render unto her a recompense. This is the year of recompenses we're in now, and this is the day of vengeance. Babylon hath been a golden cup in the Lord's hand, that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine. Therefore the nations are mad. They are nuts, mad as in nuts. Well, let's check that word. Halal. It's a question here with this word. Let's see how Strong's puts it into English. The word literally is shine. It means like draw attention to themselves, maybe. Babylon is suddenly fallen. It happens suddenly. The word suddenly is Strong's number 6597, Patone. Surprisingly quick. It's going to be very fast. The sleeper agents in a coordinated way are going to rise up. North Korea, China, Russia, Iran, and Muslim states, and Venezuela, and Cuba, they're all going to come. The wall goes down. The only wall America has is between Mexico and America. Mexico's in on it. They're going to come in mass. They're going to come with the cartels and everything else. There'll be a lot of brutal killers in there. I think when we say the nations are mad, we could say they're mad. Babylon is suddenly, when you get drunk, you shine, your face starts to get red and glow. I think that's another meaning you could take with this. Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. There it is. Howl for her, take balm for her pain. A balm means a salve, a cream, a healing cream. So take balm for her pain. Let's check the word pain, 4341. Let's see how Strong's puts it into English. Anguish, affliction. If so be she may be healed. We would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her, and let us go every one into his own country, for her judgment reacheth unto heaven, and is lifted up even to the skies. The Lord hath brought forth our righteousness. Come and let us declare in Zion the work of Jehovah Elohim. Okay. This is what you're seeing with the militias, the survivalists, the preppers, the gun guys. They're going to try to heal Babylon. They're going to try to fix America. They're going to try to get rid of Biden and straighten the country out. Are they well intended? Yes. Are they going to maybe go off the deep end and get pretty harsh to every foreigner in America? Yes, they will. They're going to want to return America to, like World War II status, where there were almost no, I'm going to get a little munchy here, I haven't eaten all day. There were no real foreigners in the country, The immigration started around 67. Before, like after World War II and before World War II, America was basically isolationist. Like in the 50s, when America was so-called great, America made their cars, they raised their beef, they raised their chickens, they raised their lambs, they grew the corn and the wheat. They had a silver-backed currency that was partially fiat, but it was better than what they have now. The American workers took pride in their work. They worked in factories and they were loyal to the factory. Gasoline was 15, 19 cents a gallon. Houses were $3,000 or $4,000 or less. Cars were 800, 900, sometimes 600. So a working guy without a degree from college could get a job, buy a house, and have a car and enjoy life. It was relatively crime free. There was no drug problem. There was no perplexing gender issues. Prisons were basically full of murderers, thieves, car thieves, forgers, things like that, not victimless crimes. Cops didn't go around killing people. There was no gun control till 67, the same year they started the immigration. You just used to walk into a store and buy a gun like a pair of socks. There were no forms to fill out. There was no ATF, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, was working, I think, narcotics. No, there was a Bureau of Narcotics. They were basically dealing with tobacco, firearms, and alcohol. That's it. But they weren't into firearms, except no, they just weren't into firearms. I remember reading the gun magazines when I was a kid. Except for maybe 5 or 6 states in America, like New York and California, you were able to buy guns in the mail. Pistols, rifles, shotguns. I remember seeing ads for the 51 caliber Boys, BOYS, anti-tank rifle. They were either $69 or $99, and they mailed it to you. That's a powerful rifle, anti-tank. People were buying Schmeissers from World War II, German machine guns. I'll be right back. There was no special consideration for machine guns. In some states there were, but a lot of people had machine guns. I remember in the 60s, Florida had open carry laws. You were able to just strap a gun on and wear it. Chief, I gotta sit down. You're tripping me. So it was no big deal. And then if you wanted to just carry a gun and you knew the locals, you were in the town, the cops wouldn't do anything to you. Or you go see the sheriff or the police chief and tell them why you want to carry a gun. I go camping, I go hunting, I do this and that. They give it to you. When I worked in law enforcement, I knew guys that had guns, machine guns from World War II. And this was right after the 67 gun control law, very recently after that, not immediately, but you know. What they were doing, they had a grace period where you could register these guns and you didn't have to pay the tax. Being cops, they registered the gun. And then they created wills where they left the gun to the police department. So the police department would inherit the gun and they had to pay the tax. I knew cops in Florida in the 60s that would get a letter from the sheriff, well, the police chief or the sheriff, that they worked in a rural area and help could take 5 or 8 minutes, and they would get a letter from the police chief or the sheriff, go to the gun store and order a full auto M16, and it took a few weeks and they got it and they'd keep it in the trunk of their car. So if they had a dicey call and they were concerned, they'd go open it when they got to the area where the trouble was. They'd take the gun out of the trunk, put a round in, pull it like this, put a round in the chamber, 30, 40 round clip, and you got a lot of firepower. You could hold off a handful of people till you get help. I mean, if they're skilled and they start flanking you and stuff, you got a lot of trouble. But you know, people get nervous when you start shooting 3-shot bursts at them. You blup, blup, you know, they don't like rushing. Guys would have the BAR was a great gun, the Browning automatic rifle. It had a 20-round clip. It was 30-06, very powerful. The deer rifle round, much like a 308 NATO round, very, very powerful. They would get those. Those were maybe $100 for a good one. All this stuff was flying around, you know. You couldn't get artillery. People were selling bazookas in the gun magazines. Bazookas that would fire a projectile to hit a tank or a building. That people were buying them. I mean, America didn't have gun control, and they're going to do that in the new republic they're going to form, and the people are going to love it. Very briefly, they're going to love it. They're going to go home with their machine gun and put a silencer on it and put night optics on it and day optics on it and all kinds of attachments, and they're going to polish it and clean it and sleep next to it and just about get up in the morning and kiss it, and they're going to be happy for a very brief period of time. America's going to be destroyed by fires. Mostly. I'll show you the scripture. God's working the snare on America. Jeremiah 50:32. Let's go back a little bit. Jeremiah 50, verse 29. Call together the archers. Now remember, the archers are the way there. God was describing the warriors, who'd probably be riflemen today, I guess. But against Babel, all you that bend the bow, camp against it round about. Let none thereof escape. So when it says those of you that survived the sword, let Zion come to mind, it's before this final battle. It's going to happen with the violence, ruler against ruler. That's when you're going to get out, and that has already started. And you come to Israel. So none thereof escape. Recompense her according to her work. That's year of recompenses, hint. According to all that she hath done, do unto her, for she hath been proud against Jehovah, against his Holy One, the Holy One of Israel. Look what he's doing to Israel. Biden dictates to us how to run the war. Therefore shall her young men fall in the streets, and all her men of war shall be cut off. All of them are dead. Now, the scriptures don't address two nations. It addresses just one country. The ruler against ruler probably means maybe they never really finalized the second country, or it's just considered a rebellious portion. I don't know yet. So maybe this thing with Trump never does happen. It may never happen. I don't know. There's not a lot of time for it. Before they would have Trump, the states have to form their Senate and their House and Supreme Court, and then vote, and it'd be a job. And all her men of war shall, but rest assured, Trump's going to get involved in this rebellion. Believe me, he already is. Men of war shall be cut off in that day, saith the Lord. Trump's got criminal cases over his head like Netanyahu. He'd be very happy to see America break apart. In that day, it's a day, all the men of war. It's the day of vengeance. Behold, I am against thee, O thou most proud, that's America, saith Adonai Jehovah of hosts, for thy day is come, the day of vengeance, the time that I will visit thee. That's not a good thing. And the most proud shall stumble, those are your rich Satan bots, and fall, and none shall raise them up. And I will kindle a fire, Jehovah will kindle a fire in his cities. Now let's check the words on that just to make sure. 33:41, Yitzhar, kindle. So what it's saying kindle, I think it says esh, fire, kindle fire. I think we caught him lying on the next word. No, cities, kindle fire cities, devour or burn up, take your pick, a call, devour or burn up, I'd go with burn up. All, and that word is call, which means all. Roundabout, I think this is reasonably accurate. Roundabout or around. The word him is added in. Thus saith Jehovah of armies, the children of Israel and the children of Judah oppressed together, and all that took them captive held them fast. They refused to let them go. We may find out that the FEMA camps are really there to put the Israelites into, and those that are true believers that are not native Israelites, but I don't know for sure. And there's a dead bare bones minimum of 6.5 million just people that are Judah that know it. And I don't think they have any chance of getting 6.5 million in FEMA camps in 6 months, but you don't know. Their Redeemer is strong. Jehovah of hosts is his name. Shall thoroughly plead their cause, that he may give rest to the land, that's Israel, Haaretz, and disquiet the inhabitants of Babylon. The word disquiet is 7264 Strong's number. And disquiet's not a very accurate translation. Quiver, like shake from fear. A sword is upon the Chaldeans, saith the Lord, and upon the inhabitants of Babel, and upon her princes, and upon her wise men. A sword is upon the liars, and they shall dote. A sword is upon her mighty men, and they shall be dismayed. A sword is upon their horses, and upon their chariots, and upon the mingled people that is in the midst of her, and they shall become as women. A sword is upon her treasures, and they shall be robbed. A drought is upon her waters. This I don't think we've seen yet, but it's coming. And they shall be dried up, for it is the land of graven images, and they are mad upon their idols. Therefore the wild beast, okay, it just talks about how it's going to be a desolation and no one's going to live there. And in Jeremiah 50:41 it says, behold, the people shall come from the north, and a great nation. North probably is north of Israel. It could be Turkey and, many Arab Muslim states that are going to join into this fracas. And many kings shall be raised up from the coasts of the earth. They shall hold the bow, and the lands they are cruel. Oh, an understatement. They will not show mercy, an understatement. I know what happened in Gaza. Their voice shall roar like the sea, and they shall ride upon horses, every one put in array like a man to battle. Against thee, O daughter of Babel. The king of Babel, or Babylon, and really in the Hebrew says Babel, which means confusion, hath heard the report of them, and his hands waxed feeble. Anguish took hold of him, and pangs as of a woman in travail. Now, this is where it gets interesting, and I'm going to have to take you deep. Biden is in on it and causing this. He knows what he's doing. This person is actually upset and anguished and scared like a woman in travail, so he's not the one that caused it. Why would Biden leave the border open if he wasn't in on this? Maybe it's not Biden. Maybe they overthrow Biden and put Trump in. I don't know. I'm a little confused, but we'll get this. The pieces will come about. Behold, he shall come up like a lion from the swelling of Jordan unto the habitation of the strong, but I will make them suddenly run away from her. And who is the chosen man that I may appoint over her? Who is like me, and who will appoint me the time? And who is that shepherd that will stand before me? That's speaking of one or both of the two witnesses, and it's speaking of America and Israel by the Jordan River running away. So it's probably the two witnesses that run America off from Israel. So we're going to have more problems from America. Therefore, hear you the counsel of the Lord, that he hath taken against Babel, and his purposes that he hath purposed against the land of the Chaldeans. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them. At the noise of the taking of Babel, the earth is moved, and the city and the cry heard among the nations. Okay, so if you read Jeremiah 50 and 51, and you read Isaiah 47, Isaiah 13 into 14, you'll get a very good depiction of the daughter of Babylon. Now, check the chat for a few seconds. Let's see, somebody put something. Trump give land on the Gaza border. I don't know what Trump would do, but I think he's going to have his hands full pretty bad in America. It's already started in America. Months ago, I was telling you this would happen. Many months ago, some of you know that before the big attack on the daughter of Babylon, America, you're going to see the ruler fighting ruler, and to be a ruler, you have to be in control of something, a state, a city, a county. You can't be in charge of Amazon or Twitter or something like that. You got to, okay? So I told you that, and now you're seeing it happen right in front of your eyes. And I told you the year of recompenses began on or around August 1st, give or take a few days. And we got about 6 months left to go, and now you see it. And then I've told you that the day of vengeance is in the year of recompenses in the Bible. So I suppose I should read you that scripture. Some people won't know it. Isaiah 34:8. For it is the day of the Lord's vengeance, the year of recompenses for the controversy of Zion. There you have it. The year of redemption isn't going to be here that quick. Few years. What I see, and I keep working on this, okay, is I see peace coming with Lebanon and Gaza. Maybe not immediately, but I see it stopping. Could it be a victory? It could still be a victory for Israel, which in effect stops the fighting. The harvest in America is not the same as the second Exodus. The second Exodus, they're coming from all over. This is going to be just America. Now, what about my precious Canadians, of which some I know well and I respect and value them? How are they going to be affected? I don't think he's destroying Canada. I don't think he's destroying Mexico, and I don't think he's destroying the Caribbean right now. They will get destroyed, but I think they may not be affected. Canada didn't do all these things to Israel. Can they join in this exodus from America? I don't know. The borders may be closed. I don't know. But this I don't have. When he destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, the Lord destroyed the neighboring cities. But I don't read about that in the scriptures, so I don't think you're in this. That's a guess, okay? But I don't see it. I don't have a scripture to go by, so I can't tell you for sure, but I don't see any reason to believe that you'll be in this harvest, because there's no scripture for it. So it would be supposition. What if you just went into America and left with them? Well, that might work. May very well work. I don't know. The amazing speed that this is moving is incredible. Uh, Things are going to be happening and they're going to be going faster and faster. So when America is destroyed, which will be before the last day in July, I assume, give or take 3 or 4 or 5 days, right? The whole world's at rest and at peace. They sing in the heavens, they're rejoicing. America's been the one causing the trouble for Israel, believe me, since 48. So America leaves Israel alone, and this is when Israel is going to have the two witnesses. They're going to be emerging very quickly, working openly, and there'll be a temple, and the 2/3 are probably not going to be cut off yet. And the whole world's going to be tipsy-turvy because America is gone. And this is going to give Israel its time to work. And we read in Malachi 3, Elijah will be training the Levites to make the offerings acceptable to the Lord. We read in Ezekiel 37, the last 3 verses, the next temple, which is not New Jerusalem, comes from the Lord, from heaven, as a sign to show the heathen that he sanctified Israel. If a bunch of rabbis built a temple, it wouldn't mean anything. Israel will have wealth and riches without bars and without walls, with cattle and gold and silver, and there'll be a falling away. And that will be the tribulation, which will come on the nations and on Israel. I thought it would just be on the nations, but it's Gog and Magog in the great day of the Lord and the tribulation are going to happen in the same time period or extremely close, back to back. Okay? And we got a few years for that. I don't know exactly, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, something like that. I am working on trying to get that figured out. I think I can figure it out. It's probably close to around 7 years, I'm thinking, but pray that the Lord gives it to me so I get it straight, please, so we have a good time frame. Is this new biblical year starting around mid-February going to be a Jubilee? I don't know. It could very well be a Jubilee. Does the day Yeshua return, is that a Jubilee? It could be. Doesn't have to be. Year of Recompenses matches no biblical holiday where there's a big slaughter like that. And so it could happen anywhere. It doesn't have to follow a year. It's like this. Let's say somebody comes to you and say, how many years was the war with Babylon? It was 2 years. I'm just making numbers up, right? That doesn't mean it started on the first day of the year and ended, on the last day of the year or something like that. It could just be, it could start in October, June, whatever. How long did you live in Seattle? I was there 4 months. Does that mean you were there from January 1st? No, you just pick it, so it's a 1-year period, the recompenses, and we're in the middle of it, and you can look how it's heating up. Now, what about China and the Pacific? To weaken America, China could hit Taiwan, and Biden sends a bunch of troops over there to make it look good, and ships and everything else. North Korea could hit South Korea and ditto. Russia could hit some NATO countries and ditto. And then comes Yemen and Iran. And now America has their troops deployed all over the world in very, very uncomfortable levels. And then Biden says, well, we need to induct the immigrants into the military so we got people. You see, guys, first thing you have to understand is What Biden thinks he's going to do today and what he does in 2 weeks or 2 months could be different. All right? I'm giving you possible scenarios, you know. Rest assured, Trump is getting in the middle of this thing here. Will they have the time to form another republic? I don't really see two countries. I just see one country in Jeremiah 50:51. So it's more like they'll probably try to start a country or they'll just break away and they won't have another nation. And Biden will say, you can't break away. They say they can. Or they'll just be fighting and never get to breaking away. They may just be in fights. It's very likely they'll just be in fights. But Trump will be there, raving, cheering the breakaway states away. And, you know, they may not succeed. Maybe they'll never succeed. Maybe they'll just fight. It may just go to immediate fight without time for succession. And succession doesn't mean a lot. It's just paperwork. So it's hard to say. But I don't read it two states, so I don't see how in 6 months they're going to create a new nation and get it all set up. It's near impossible. So they're probably just going to be bucking and kicking against Biden, and Biden may go violent. I mean, Lincoln did. Why won't Biden? The South succeeded in it, and I think Lincoln moved on him pretty quick. It wasn't about the slaves. Don't fall for that. Lincoln freed the slaves 2 years after the war. 2 years later. Come on, it wasn't about that. It was about the money, the economy. What do you think? The South were using slaves, and they were rich. They had agriculture plantations and stuff like that, and I don't remember exactly what Lincoln's problem was, but Lincoln was a pig, a tyrant, a horrible person. They built monuments to him. He was a terrible person. I think more people died in the Civil War than in World War II from America. He was a horrible person. And the South suffered under him. My gosh. My God. When I went to college, I remember it was a big football team where I went, and they would play at the games. They would play the Star Spangled Banner, and everybody would sit down, and then they'd play Dixie, and everybody stood up. We were at the time an integrated university. We weren't segregated. We had 16,000 students, and 16 of them were black. One of them that I became friendly with he had a gun and he had no bullets, and I helped him get bullets for the gun. He was scared. I knew a kid, he told me the tree downtown, this was in Tallahassee, Florida State University, showed me a tree downtown where he said his granddaddy told him that's where they used to go and hang the black people. The Ku Klux Klan was still active. They had meetings out of town on the highway, and they burned crosses. The phony preachers came around with tent meetings. They had big tents, and they set it up, and they did phony healings and false preaching and all kinds of garbage. We didn't have county fairs. We used to have to go to Georgia, which was 20-something miles, I think. And they had big county fairs up in Thomasville, Georgia, I think it was. Thomasville, Georgia. We went up there. They had a drag strip for drag racing, and the guy used to leave the gates open during the week. And we used to take our cars out there and just drag race. Nobody cared. So you didn't race on the streets. See, that's when Americans used to use their brains. You know? But America was really in trouble. There was the Vietnam days. It was very dark in America. There was a lot of problems. A lot of problems in America. Those days are over. These are much bigger problems now. Much bigger problems. I have never seen anything like this. You'd have to go back to the Civil War, what, 1862 or 63? I think 62. That's how far back you have to go to see a problem like this in America, and look how it ended. More people died in that war than the World War II. And you could be days away or hours. I mean, it could start any time. I don't know what Biden will do. Could be whatever Obama tells him to do. He could start issuing arrest warrants for Abbott and his government. He could try to have them kidnapped with special forces. I don't think he's going to go this route. It could happen. I don't know what Biden's going to do. He's doing sanctions on them now. He's attacking Texas oil and natural gas, stopping them from exporting it. He's doing sanctions. He already started that. So he could start cutting federal funding in Texas. Could Abbott tell the people not to file their federal income taxes? It probably wouldn't do much good, because a lot of these people probably are going to get money back from the government, so they're not about to forego that money. I don't know how. I don't know how it. All the details about this yet, but he did put sanctions on. He could try more sanctions. Remember, when you have this problem, it's going to expand. Like, the federal government has land in Texas, I'm sure, parks, forests, whatever, right? Army bases, Navy bases, Coast Guard bases, Air Force bases, whatever. What do they do with that? Texas would say it's under our jurisdiction. The Fed would say, no, it's under ours. All this kind of stuff. What if Texas opens up its border internationally without putting embargo or trade, without taxing products like America does, or without banning products like America does, and just starts opening up its borders to trade by air or water, because you could get to Texas by water without having anything to do with America, and you could fly in from the water. So Texas could do that. What does Biden do? What about the banks in Texas? They got to get money from the Federal Reserve. So what if Biden just closes the window to the Federal Reserve and to the state banks and the credit unions, the banks and the savings and loans and the thrifts, which is like the money lender, the money lenders. They're not real banks. They're way down in the totem pole. What do they call them? I can't remember the names of them, but people with bad credit go there and stuff. So they could do that. And then Texas has a banking crisis. They can cut Texas off from the SWIFT system. They could stop the clearing of checks. There's all kinds of games that can be played. Biden has a very big trick bag. He could surround Texas with federal troops and not let them leave. I don't know what he's going to do. There's a million and one things he could do, and there's a million and one things Texas could do. But when Texas has 25 states willing to support him, that's when you have to keep your head in the ground. To not see civil war or fighting, you have to keep your head in the ground. For many people, this is going to be bad. Now, I opened up a new Telegram channel, okay? It's called America's Civil War. Wait, let me get the exact words. I think that's it. But I just opened it up this morning and I didn't put content up there. America's Civil War and Bible Prophecy. America, Civil War, and Bible Prophecy on Telegram. Content should be going up today. So I'm going to be reporting heavily on this channel for America, and I'm probably also going to post it on my other channel too. So you'll see, if you want to subscribe to this, of course it's free. You got to download the app Telegram Messenger, that's free. And you just go to, you search in Telegram, America Civil War and Bible Prophecy, and just join. You know, I have one post up there saying I'm going to be putting up content soon, and I will. Now, Trump may decide to campaign and run for a president of this new group of states that are fighting with Biden if they so decide to divide that way. But I don't see Daughter of Babylon being divided. You know, it doesn't say that. So I think we have to downplay the splitting into another republic. I'm not seeing that in the scriptures. So I think that's me becoming overzealous. No, it's not in the scriptures. What's in the scriptures is ruler fighting rulers. So they're going to, and we're seeing the stages perfectly set already. The states are going to start fighting against the Fed. And it's going to be violent. So Biden is going to go violent. Doesn't mean he'll do it this week. He might wait a week or two or three or something, but he's going to get violent. Violent means law enforcement and military. Both, whatever. This would be a great excuse for him to put the sleeper agents in the military, and that gets him on the military bases real good. Remember, all the military in America gets cut off. That's in the scriptures. It says the bullocks get killed. The bullocks are like the bulls. That's your government, your federal agents, police, and stuff like that. They're going to go. So they'll be in the fracas. There you have it. 14 states so far, and that number seems to be growing by the hour, have sent or in the process of sending either state police or state National Guard to Texas to help and support Governor Abbott of Texas. 14. Abbott said he thinks that every one of the 25 states supporting him will physically send help to him, or almost all of them. Those of you that are in the states that have not sent help or intending to send help to Biden, that's probably going to be, I don't know how it'll turn out, actually. You'll be under Biden. I don't know. Some of the 25 states may cave in and others may rise up. Expect twists and turns. God's doing this snare, and he's making it in such a way that people aren't going to be able to cold, calm, and calculatingly predict what's going to happen. It's going to be very difficult to follow all this. All right. that's basically what I got. Let me check the news very quickly here and see if we got any interesting updates since I started about America or what's going on in the Middle East. Canada joined the U.S. in freezing UNRWA funds. This is because many of the UNRWA people were actually working for Hamas, and some of those got fired by the UNWRA already. The Hamas is moving to get the ICJ decision into the UN Security Council to force a ceasefire in Israel. Biden and the UK would probably likely not approve that. They'd veto it. But they might do it. I don't know exactly how it'll come to pass, but I'm quite sure there's going to be a cessation of the fighting with Lebanon and Gaza very shortly. All right, let me keep looking and see if we got any new I'm looking for new developments with America. Australia also announced a freeze on the UNWRA money. It's catching on. Italy announced also a freeze on funds to the UNWRA. Oh, this is growing. Very interesting. Looking here. I'm doing social media, so I get it usually 12 hours before the mainstream gets it. I'll be updating during the day. No, I don't have anything on that yet, but I'm sure the day will have a lot of rich news. Um, and remember, with the Houthis, it's going to have to be a ground invasion to stop it from happening. And the many nations in the EU and NATO will probably join in, so America's probably going to have to carry, I would say, 40 to 50% or even 60% of the load, but they'll get a lot of assistance. India will even help. They could create a beachhead on the borders that Yemen has on the south and the west with the water and shove them back 25 or 40 miles, which will mess up their rocket launching tremendously. And try that, or they could come in through Saudi Arabia on land. I don't know how they'll do it. There's a lot of ways. But I can tell you from our experiences in Gaza with Hamas, just bombing them to the tune of hundreds and hundreds of bombs a day doesn't work. They have tunnels and underground bunkers, and you're not going to get them that way. You're just not going to get them that way. You got to go on the ground and then get rid of them that way. So I'm Moshe. If you like this, subscribe. I'll keep you up to date with what's going on in the Middle East and America and the Pacific with China and what's going on in Europe. I translate from Arabic, from Hebrew, from Russian, and put stuff up on my channels and Telegram. If you want my main Telegram channel, you could join the channel I just announced, and I'll put the link to the main one up there, or just send me an email. Just ask me for the main Telegram channel and or the other channel or whatever. I have a spiritual warfare channel too and stuff. Just ask me. And it's all free. And I'll send you the invite link. So I'm Moshe. My wife is Rivka. Please pray for our peace, safety, protection, joy. Pray for our healing. Pray for our finances. Many thanks to those that are giving offerings. PayPal is the best for me because it's easy for me to put it into Israel. The other giving channels, it has to go from another country into Israel. It's pain in the neck. And pray for our animals and pets that are all rescues, that they be happy, healthy, and whole. And pray we don't have to go in the bomb shelters. And pray that I get more insights and I make better videos. And like I said, I'm going to be covering the situation in America intensely, okay? Intensely. And I'll keep you, I'm going to work the social media very hard, and I'm also going to integrate it into Bible like I did today. So you'll see what's happening, and I'll tie it to the Bible prophecies, and you'll really get a handle on it. Again, the daughter of Babylon is Isaiah 13 and to 14. It's Isaiah 47. It's Jeremiah 50 and 51. Those are the big ones, okay? And there's going to be a harvest inside America, and that's going to lead to many Jews and true believers leaving and coming to Israel. But before you see that, or at the same time, probably you'll see that, you'll see many other people leaving and going back to their own country. This, I believe, is not the second Exodus. It's the daughter of Babylon's own harvest, because there are so many lost tribes and Judah in America and true believers. Okay? If you think you're going to be included because you're a member of some goofy church that preaches against the words of Yeshua, I wouldn't count on it, you know. I mean, why are you in the church? You know? So that's basically what I got for now. And I send my Shabbat Shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach. And I'm out. And remember again, Trump will be involved. He already is, but I don't think they're going to have enough time to form a complete second country. Okay, Thank you.